Hello, I'm David Reyes. I'm the co-author of Land of a Thousand Dances, History of Chicano Rock and Roll in Southern California. We have a chapter of Richie Valens. Enjoy the book.
Well, hi everybody. My name is Corey Long. I'm talking to you from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and I'm the author of "Come On, Baby, Just Rock, Rock, Rock: The Inspired Life and Enduring Legacy of Richie Valens," which is available on Amazon. If you don't mind me sharing here, not only do I have a copy of it, but if you look at all the markup.
Oh,
This is
wow.
this is this is research for my book, and I'm so grateful that you and Tom wrote this book together because it gave me a lot of inspiration for mine. That this music resonates so much with so many people, and I thought, well, I want to focus. You did a great chapter on Richie, and I wanted to do a full book on him. So you got me started. So thank you for that. I'm forever
Whoa.
grateful for that.
Well, you're quite welcome. Thank you
Yeah.
for that nice kind words there. I
No,
appreciate
it's
that.
all
It
true.
was
Every word of it.
thank you. We Tom and I, when we started writing the book, Land of a Thousand Dances, uh, we didn't really know anyone yet. I knew some of the musicians, but then we finally found one of the producers, Billy Cardenas, and that's what everything started blossoming.
Opened up.
And
Great.
but that was a lot of fun. We did a lot of research and interviews. We interviewed them. I have the cassettes of the interviews, and
Yeah.
some of the highlights, of course, was like interviewing Frank Zappa at his home in Laurel Canyon, which was very cool. And that was a great story. We got in touch with his publicist, I think on a Monday. Yeah, and then he contacted us on a Thursday and said, "Tom, Frank will see you on Monday or Tuesday of next week." We go, "Wow, okay." And he was great because in the book I was always championing a band from Pomona. They were called the Velveteens, and they recorded on what's the name of that label? Donna? No, the the first label, Emma Emma Records, I believe. It's a yellow, really cool uh, record label. Well, Frank Zappa was working with Paul Buff then, so they always crossed paths. The Velveteens told me, that.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Frank Zappa. He goes, "Yeah, man, the music was kind of crazy, but it was cool." So uh,
Well, the great story about Frank Zappa is that he stole coins from his father's collection in order to pay
yeah.
for his ticket to go see Richie Valens. How cool
Mhm.
is that?
Oh yeah, he shared that story with us, and we couldn't believe it because he just started laughing. Yeah, my dad never got over it for a while, but it took a while. And yeah, it was very old, something like 1898 nickels and all this stuff. So that was a great story.
Yeah, I love that.
And
Yeah.
he saw Richie Valens in the Rainbow Gardens here in Pomona,
Hmm.
and we just did a short video about the sounds of Pomona that we're going to highlight here early next year, probably
Oh,
the
great.
entire video. It's about the Chicano bands, the scene in the 50s and 60s.
Hmm.
So, but the Rainbow Gardens played a prominent role in the development of these bands. So, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, and that's the part in researching the book for Richie that you try to bring to life is the atmosphere in those venues.
right.
American Legion Music Hall, Long Beach Civic Auditorium, and just these places that would have been. I mean, rock and roll's in its infancy. You have the influence of rhythm and blues and Mexican music. I mean, the energy in those venues must have been incredible, and
Yeah.
that's the part that as someone who's not of that vintage, you try to imagine how wonderful those shows would have been. How and hot and sweaty and amazing, right?
Yeah.
Like it would have been fantastic.
Yeah, and the being performing on stage and then seeing your friends out there, and
Right.
looking back, and that's always a big kick. You big
Sure.
kick out of that.
And you better show up, right? Like there's a bit of pressure there too. Like
Yeah,
you better
yeah.
bring it, you
You got to
know?
bring it to the
Yeah.
stage, and
Yeah.
Richie did that. And I think in his recordings, he really showcased it. And of course, like "Come On, Let's Go." I think
Hmm.
that's probably his really best rock and roll song. And
It's my favorite. I mean,
Isn't it?
and
It's such a great.
I know La Bamba, is transnational in its appeal, and it's lived on through the ages in many different ways. And Donna's that sort of quintessential teenage ballad, but Come On, Let's Go is just perfect rock and roll from beginning to end. And you think of the players on that record, Earl Palmer and Renee Hall, Bob Keene's credit, you can say what you want about him. He sure knew how to put a band together.
He sure did. I mean,
Great
he
band.
got
Yeah.
members of the Wrecking Crew in there.
Yeah.
Carol
Carol
Kay
Kay.
played on La
Yeah.
Bamba, and
Yeah.
oh man, that was some heavyweight stuff there.
So that rhythm track, is just for a 17-year-old kid who had never been in a recording studio before, to have that kind of a bedrock underneath him for really all of his studio
All of his
recordings.
students, yeah,
Keen put together great backing tracks for him. So um, that was cool. That was part of it too, because it was the Wrecking Crew before the Wrecking Crew in a way.
exactly.
Like,
Yeah,
so,
yeah, it was the Wrecking Crew before the Wrecking Crew.
yeah.
Uh,
And Keen's background as as a clarinetist, as a big band, sort of a product of the big band era, I think helped him in understanding that you need a great rhythm section, you need great accompanists to make good records, and then
I
he
agree
gave
with
Richie
that.
that. Yeah,
And he was able to supply that for Richie. And
yeah.
like you said, Richie's first time in a studio, a major studio like that, I'm
Hmm.
sure he was like, "Whoa, what's going on?" And in the studio, when we interviewed Bob Keane, he said that yeah, Richie was very enthusiastic about it, uh, but he had to make a tough decision. Bob wanted to create a studio band for him and not use the regular band that he
Yeah,
had.
silhouettes. Yeah,
So he had to
yeah.
make that. That was a difficult
It's a tough
decision
one.
for Richie,
Oh,
and I'm
of
sure
course.
that
Yeah,
weighed on him.
yeah, yeah. It would have for sure. And I think by all accounts, he was just such a personable person, like such a positive demeanor, polite, sort of kind, humble. That yeah, it would have been difficult. But at the same time, this was all he lived and breathed, right? So
Yeah,
you do have to make that decision, and I mean, it turned out that it was the right one. Um,
he sure did.
yeah,
I'm sure he was aware he was hurting some of the band members' feelings. He probably never knew
sure.
they had some uh, issues there for a while. That they didn't talk to each other, and if
Hmm.
they did,
Hmm.
I'm sure that was uncomfortable. But then, hitting the road and touring the way he did, he had time to kind of forget about that. And
Yeah, there wouldn't be much looking back, would there? I mean, as far as you
yeah,
think of the whirlwind of appearances, and then
television
continent
appearances.
television, continental tours, going down east, and then you think of Hawaii up to Seattle, up to Vancouver, Canada, and then of course the Winter Dance Party in just less than 9 months.
Right.
He didn't have time to kind of dwell on the past very much. He would have been,
Exactly. And
yeah,
I think he was, I mean, obviously he was capable of doing that. To his credit, he did that. And
yeah,
uh,
oh for sure.
yeah,
And that's tough. Like 17, you think of how many 17-year-olds that you know in your life
right.
that could have become that polished that quickly,
Mm.
to be on stage, to have a presence on stage, to be in a recording studio. You think of the output, like the output of recordings, like you could spend a lot of time messing up in a recording studio, and he was able to get those tracks down, many tracks in a very
Many
short
tracks,
amount of
right.
time. Yeah. Plus the travel, plus and as a musician, being on stage and performing in front of big audiences, New York City, right?
Yeah.
Low theater with Alan Freed's,
Yeah. Alan
all of
Breach.
those stars around him,
Right.
to pull that off and to have the confidence and the poise and the composure to do that.
And I
That's
think
special.
the other artists as well that were on the shows, they saw that in him. And
Yeah.
so they absorbed him and that made him feel comfortable. And I mean, I always say whenever I'm speaking about Chicano rock and Richie in particular, Richie Valens toured with Buddy Holly, and then Buddy Holly influenced the Beatles.
Yes.
Cannibal and the
Very much.
Headhunters. Cannibal and the Headhunters played with the Beatles. They toured with the Beatles, the entire
They
U.S.
have, sure, you have that progression, don't you?
Yeah, you have Richie with Buddy Holly, and Buddy Holly was like the Beatles at his time, and then the
Yes.
Beatles, and I don't think any other community in the world can say that.
No, that's a really good point.
From East Los Angeles, Pacoima, Richie Valens, and then Camel and the Headhunters. Such an
Hmm.
amazing feat that took
Yes.
place. And again, even with Cannibal, just like you said with Richie, it was just a whirlwind,
Hmm.
especially touring with the Beatles, and then, playing at the Shea Stadium show, just hearing all those screaming, and then the
Unbelievable.
Hollywood Bowl show, the
Yeah.
same thing. It was just amazing. So I'm at a higher level, with Cannibal, but Richie, the same way. They both acts were able to adjust and consume all that energy and relay it on
Yeah.
stage. And I think
Yeah.
in Richie's case, being a solo performer, you know what I mean? That was a little more difficult because Cannibal and the Headhunters, at least they were a quartet,
Sure.
had
Well,
each other.
And the Beatles for that matter, they had each other to bounce it off, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
and people like the perception is that Bob Keane was with Richie a lot as a sort of a father figure and as sort of a mentor and a confidant. Well, Richie was alone on the road a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah,
When he went into Hawaii, he was by himself,
yeah,
and up to Canada, he was by himself. And of course, on the Winter Dance Party, Bob Keane didn't go either.
yeah,
So there he is on his own.
yeah, on his own.
Um, and no band members to bounce things off or to sort of to coexist with, right? Like he's his own
Right.
person, and I think, I mean, he had, as I say, by all accounts, I mean, he had the right personality for that. In that he was so focused on his craft. Like when there was downtime, he was practicing. Like
Yeah.
he wasn't a crouser. He wasn't. I think he was a little reserved off stage.
Hmm.
On stage, I think he was in complete command. Like he was. Uh, um, the drummer from the Winter Dance Party talks about him being a field general. Like he's like once he's on stage, it was his office, and he was in complete control. And then
Right.
Carl Bunch is his name, and
Hmm.
um, but I think off stage, like many performers, he was a bit of an introvert, and so he'd be in his room working on his licks, working on his guitar playing,
Yeah, because
and writing.
right, exactly. And because
Yeah.
he was surrounded with great talent, at
Mm.
least on the road. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
sure. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he was able to see that and absorb that. So
Yeah.
he wanted to do that as well. And you said like writing songs, and practicing his guitar work. Uh,
Yeah.
that's a very big credit for him. Like you said, being on the road alone is tough, especially after making such a profound decision of your career at an early age by going alone,
Hmm.
and having the studio sessions
It's
in that
true.
band. It's just simply mind-boggling that he was able to do that, pull it off. I mean, you got to
Yeah.
give him credit. He really did something special in
Oh,
his recording and his touring.
it's really true. And in such a short period of time.
Yeah,
That's the thing that I keep going back to, that this all happened, as I said earlier, in less, 9 months or less, really, when you look at it,
yeah,
from the time he
exactly.
was discovered to the time of his death, nine plus months.
Yeah.
And uh,
Yeah.
it's almost, it kind of drives home that feeling, that feeling, and that sort of where we lament that he wasn't with us longer. I mean, who could pack more into a life than Richie Valens did?
Right.
Nobody.
Yeah. Nobody.
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 So
Not that 9 months, man. That's
no.
just unheard of. And
and
again,
and and this comes from someone who had a lot of instability early in his life. You lose your father at age 10, and even before that, his mother and his father weren't living together, and you have a troubled brother. You're living sort of paycheck to paycheck with your mom doing odd jobs, and yet he was able to just find that joy and find that reason to be, really, through music. And it's a testament to his willpower and a testament to the flat out love of music that he had.
exactly his love of music. And I think, you know, uh, a lot of people aren't aware of that, how deeply in love he was with his music. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because they just hear the track, and the track only lasts 2 minutes and 20 seconds.
Right.
So you get the impression one would that, well, that was quick,
Hmm.
so, but when you really dig in there, it's tough, like you said. but it was an accomplishment the way he did it with such uh, little time. You know, he boom, he
Yes.
already had the songs, and of course the teen ballad Donna is just an amazing song.
Yeah.
Uh, so I think that song will never get you'll never get tired of listening to that song.
No, it's one of those perfectly constructed songs too. It's of its time, but it's still it's timeless in a way. Like it, you put that on at any dance anywhere at any wedding, and people start to slow dance.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, there's no way to
it's a
stop.
great one. You know,
Um,
and you know the words too. You know, I had a girl, Donna was her name. You know,
yeah,
and simple lyrics, but it worked with the music, and
it
that
totally does. And one of the things when I break that song down in the book, it's I love that it's I had a girl. I don't have her anymore, right?
right,
She's gone.
right,
Right.
right,
So
right. That's
so
true.
this is a teenage lament. This isn't I'm happy song. This is I've lost her already
Right.
song. And
Yeah, you're right.
so that drives it home a little more even when you think about it that way. And it just back to the musicianship, when you think about it too, other than Come On, Let's Go, Richie Valens played solo on every single one of his songs, the
Right,
solos, the guitar solos.
right.
So that's not an easy feat either. You're talking
No,
about singing the way he did with that beautiful tenor and writing the songs, co-writing, and Keane, to his credit, did co-write a lot of these songs.
right,
Um, but then having the chops to play the solos and get them right in a recording studio that we're talking about 4 tracks here. We're not talking about any kind of complicated recording situation, right? So you
right,
had to be
right.
on. You had to nail the solos, and
You
he
had to
did.
nail it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you start all over. You couldn't cut and paste, cut
No,
and
no.
paste. Yeah, you know, you had to start all over.
Did
So
you ever get a chance to go into Gold Star before they tore it down?
no,
Did you
I
ever?
did.
No,
No,
you
no.
didn't. Okay.
Yeah, I never
Yeah.
got to go in there. But yeah, just the fact that he was able to use that studio and Bob Keane, like you said, you know, everybody knows, you know, whatever about him, they have their own feelings about him,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
he had the knack to do something like that, and
Yeah.
that's what's special, and because he saw it in Ritchie, so
Oh, totally.
he
Yeah.
went ahead and brought these incredible musicians in the studio. I mean,
Yeah.
listen to La Bamba. I mean, La Bamba itself, the way it starts off with that
Oh,
incredible guitar work,
yeah.
and and then Richie comes right in, you know, right on time, right on cue,
It's so
and
true.
he's singing it confidently. That's how
Yeah.
he's singing that song with a lot of
And
confidence.
there must have been trepidation there because he didn't speak Spanish.
Right. He didn't speak
So,
Spanish. Right.
so his aunt Ernestine had written out the words for him, taught him the pronunciation, and so he's kind of given it a go, right? Like it's a
Yeah.
little. It's not like it was his. I mean, he grown up hearing the language, I'm sure, spoken all around him, but it wasn't his predominant language. So
You know, it wasn't.
that would have been tricky, right? And
Yeah, yeah, it would have been tricky to get it right, to get the
yeah,
pronunciations right. And again, you know, if you messed up, you had to stop and start all
start
over
all again.
again,
Yep.
or they had to try
Yeah.
to cut the tape to in the middle of the verse to match it, you know. So
Match.
it
Yeah.
was difficult. Back
Oh,
then, you had
sure.
to actually cut the 3/4 inch reel tape in order to
Right.
fit it in and tape it up, you know. So
And I think Keane really went to work on that for Come On, Let's Go. I think that was, from
yeah,
the sounds of it, the most difficult cut and paste job that he had to do. But it works out. You can hear the cuts a little bit. It's almost fun to
right,
hear them. You hear the little cuts on
right,
Come On,
right.
Let's Go a little bit, but it's part of the song's charm. I love it. And one of my favorite things is back to La Bamba for a second is on one of the later releases. I think it's the Richie Valens story that Delphi put out around 1993. You get the rhythm track by itself because Richie was had a cold, so they didn't do it all in one day. So they recorded the rhythm
Right,
track for La Bamba, and then Richie came back in and
right.
did the vocals and the solo. But no, sorry, he did the solo that first day when he had the cold, and then did the vocals after. But that rhythm track by itself is
Oh,
fantastic. It's one of
amazing.
my favorite things to listen to. Um, and it's on there, and you can find it on YouTube too, where you get the back and forth with Keen and Richie sort of
Right,
in the
right.
studio. Keen's in the control booth, and Richie's on the floor, right? And so the back and forth between them is priceless. I'm so glad that's out there. It was captured because
And
hey,
you
you get
know, Go
I was
ahead.
gonna say because you get to hear Richie talk, and that
Right.
was one of the things that with the book I was just so desperate to find his voice,
Yeah.
not in song,
Not
but just
right.
in conversation because there's so little of it recorded. So
Yeah.
all of those sort of hidden gem tracks that showed up on online were gold to actually hear him talking. I
Just
loved it.
amazing things.
Yeah.
And his song selection too of um the cover tunes, the
Mhm.
re-recording of some of the tunes. Uh, growing up in Los Angeles, let's say 1954 through 56, 57, when rock and roll was barely what, 2 years old,
Two or
maybe,
three years old. Yeah.
4
Yeah.
years old or something like
Hmm.
that. Uh, his song selection kind of uh, is on piggybacking on the sound of Los Angeles. The sounds of Los Angeles at that time, of course, was the Penguins. I mean, they
Yeah.
started it all with Earth Angel. And
Oh,
when
I
you
know.
think
Great
about
song.
that, these groups had these incredible recordings, such as Earth Angel,
Hmm.
such as Little Richard recording his stuff here.
Yep.
Uh, and then the groups that came out of Los Angeles proper, because of all the activity of all the labels that moved into LA, because of this Hollywood studios, et cetera, all of that was bridging together. So you had all these incredible labels like Flip, Ebb, Modern, Kent, the list goes on and on. And Ritchie was listening to that stuff while he was
Hmm.
going to high school. I always, well, I like to visualize him ironing his pants or something while getting ready for high school, just or where going to school, and
Yep.
then on the radio is they're playing Long Tall Sally by Little Richard, and he's
Absolutely.
like going like
Yep.
that. Guess
Yeah.
he records Framed. He records Framed
Oh,
by the Robins, and the Robins were
yeah.
from Los Angeles. Richard Berry wrote Louie Louie, and
Hmm.
this incredible path of music making from Los
It's so
Angeles,
true. It's so true.
especially from the black artists that were coming
Yes.
out. And this was fresh. This was all fresh. Boney
Hmm.
Maroney by Larry Williams.
Larry Williams. Yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
and he I mean Richie did a cover of that, and
Oh, it's a great
just
cover. It's one of
yeah,
my favorite covers. I wish that, I mean, as much as I like Framed, and I said this in the book, it wasn't. I didn't believe Richie when he sang that because he's not a kid in trouble, right?
right,
And
right,
they,
right.
and they didn't include all the verses. The funniest verse in that song wasn't included when the judge pours the water or pours the
Yeah, yeah,
alcohol and
yeah.
he says this man's guilty, right? And
Right,
they
right.
skipped that part. But Boney Maroney, I wish had been the B side for "Come On, Let's Go." I think that,
Yeah,
can you imagine that as an A side, B side? As much
yeah.
as I love Framed, I just feel like it was just too a mature song for him. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And Boney
but
Maroney hit the groove right
oh,
there.
so good.
Yeah.
And they nailed it. It's the right in the pocket. It's such a great, again,
Right.
back to that rhythm track, back to that
Right.
recording. It's
And
fantastic.
his version is different from Larry Williams' version,
Yes, it is.
because Larry
Yeah.
Williams' version is just pounding. I mean,
Hmm.
starts off with that snare, dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun, and then the
And the
band.
brass too. It's different.
Yeah.
And Richie didn't do that. But the other
That
thing I love
band
to
there.
do,
Yeah, that band in Boney Maroney by Larry Williams.
yeah,
I You can't even describe it. I mean,
it's so
they were
good.
just smoking
I
in
know.
that studio,
It's so
and you could
true.
tell that Larry was having a great time singing it.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then so Richie's version was not as hard, but it was still good.
Yeah.
That kind
It,
of
it had it had a groove,
groove,
it had different groove to it.
different groove
But
to it, and
yeah.
you could tell he was like, man, I love Larry Williams. I want to do this.
Oh, he loved all of them. And
Yeah,
just back to the Penguins, listen to the Penguins' "Hey Senorita" and
yeah,
Richie's "Cry Cry Cry" back to back.
yeah. There you go.
Very, very inspired, right? Like,
Yeah.
so
It's
he totally was listening to that. And then just back to Little Richard, when you think of Little Richard's "Oh My Soul," very much the foundation for Richie's "Oh My Head,"
Yes, exactly.
right? And,
Exactly. And
yeah.
he was listening to this stuff in
Oh
Los
yeah.
Angeles. Yeah,
Sure he was.
Johnny Otis,
Yeah.
all these acts were coming out of Los Angeles. It was just hitting everybody one after another. And in
Well,
particularly in East LA, the
yeah.
Mexican American communities.
Hmm.
Uh, I like to ask some of the bands from this early 60s, the guitar players, well, who'd you listen to? There's something that had it triggered.
Yeah.
The guitar players, a lot of them said Johnny Guitar Watson.
Okay.
That's the guy. That's the guy.
Right.
So it was really interesting to see all this and to have Richie go ahead and do those covers uh,
Yeah.
of of Larry Williams, etc. You know,
Totally. Yeah.
it helps support the foundation for the bands that came after him
Very
from
much so.
Los Angeles.
And think of Chan Romano's the Hip Hip Shake. I mean, that's a Richie Valens song, isn't it? Like
Yeah,
when
exactly.
and Keane produced it, I know. So it has that again. You're talking about that progression from generation to generation. Well, there's another example. And
Yeah, exactly. And then to top it off, who the Searchers covered it?
yeah,
Yeah, the
I
Searchers
believe
covered
so.
it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and a band from England,
Yeah, I know.
covering a
I know.
Chan Morero song. Oh man,
Well,
it's
and that's
amazing,
back to the you think of the Beatles, like that's American music, right? Like
right?
there was such an influence there, and another angle just on the influence piece. I love this sort of intergenerational influence. Bob Dylan saw Ritchie and Buddy Holly in Duluth, in Minnesota, on the Winter Dance
Wow.
Party, and it stuck with him, right? And he, one of my favorite things. I'm a very big Dylan fan too, and one of the things he talks about when he recorded "Time Out of Mind" in late
Mhm,
'90s, and he won a Grammy for it.
mhm.
He said, I felt the Buddy was with us, and
Yeah,
so
yeah,
and it's just like, oh, it's like
yeah. I
you
know.
imagine being, a 14-year-old, 15-year-old Bob Dylan seeing Richie Valens, Buddy Holly, the Big Bopper, Dion and the Belmonts,
Amazing,
right here in front
right
of you
there
on
in front of
stage. Like,
you. Right,
wow,
right, and
can you
you
believe it?
know the same thing with Richie Valens when he played the Rainbow Gardens in Pomona.
Mm,
Frank Zappa, the famous story, he got his father's nickels, etc.
yeah,
To do that and just imagine what that room felt like, the energy
can't
that was
imagine.
in that room.
I can't imagine.
Uh,
And having been to the surf myself, the surf ballroom, the last place where Richie played, of course, they're right there. Like
right,
there's no hiding, there's no distance between you and the stage. It's
right.
right there. So
You're right
if you're
there.
if you're a young person and these are your heroes, to be that close to them it would be life changing. It'd be life
Well,
changing.
you mentioned Richie doing "Oh My Soul."
Yeah.
No, "Oh My
Blew my
Head,"
head. Yeah, yeah.
and then "Oh My Soul" by Little Richard. Well,
Right.
Little Richard also played at the Rainbow Gardens.
Okay.
He was featured there, and I think my brother went to the show. You have an older brother, so my mother and I went to go pick him up. We went into the parking lot. This is a personal story. You don't have to use this.
Oh no, please. Yeah.
This is a personal story, and my mother and I drove up into the parking lot because he said it'll be over, let's say at midnight. So we went there, and I heard Little Richard, and his last song was "Keep a Knockin'."
What a great song.
Oh my God. I mean, the Rainbow Gardens literally was just keep a knocking, but you can't come. The walls were going off
Oh,
the
you would.
of kilter, and I'll never forget that. He sang "Keep a Knocking"
Well,
for his song.
fantastic, and it's such a the cornerstone of rock and roll, that song, right? I mean, and
Yeah,
the so hearing that, I can't imagine it, but actually seeing him, right? Can you, like,
exactly. And
these
again,
theatrics, like,
yes, again, like you said, Duluth, you're right there.
yeah,
It's
you're right in
right
front of
there.
you.
There's no moving. You can't get away. Right there. Once you're on stage, boom, you're
Yeah,
on.
I
So
wanted to ask you, David, about the radio stations. I talk a bit in the book about the influence of those Southern California radio stations that
yes.
sort of bought into rock and roll, KFWB and others.
Mhm.
Do you remember what radio stations do you remember listening to as a kid, and the influence they had?
Well, I was fortunate to have an older brother and sister.
Yeah.
So they were teenagers when all this started happening, young teenagers. And so I was able to absorb their energy because of the rock and roll. And the radio stations, I know that Art LeBeau was on I think a station KPOP, K-pop.
Hmm.
And my brother George and my older sister Irene, they started buying records, and 45s because that was and 78s, that was a big thing because all these acts were recording and releasing them. And I asked my brother, he started buying blues records too. I noticed that Jimmy Reed, all this other stuff, like
Great stuff. Yeah, yeah,
blues. And
yeah.
I said, what made you start buying these blues records? Because everybody was buying the doo-wop stuff and the early rhythm and blues turning into soul stuff and rock and roll stuff. There was a disc jockey. I'm not sure what he station he was on. His name was Hunter Hancock.
Okay.
He moved here from Texas. Uh, he was a preacher, I believe, in Texas. He came over here and got on the radio show, and the rest is history. He really made a lot of movement happen in in Los Angeles proper. Out here in the Pomona area, where the Rainbow Gardens was, you got to remember all the kids that were growing up here and the surrounding communities of Pomona, they were able to go to the Rainbow Gardens because it was a teenage dance night. So they were able to see these acts, Little Richard
Amazing.
and Candy Mendoza, who brought these acts in, he knew it, and he brought in Bobby Rydell, Fats Domino. It's just the list is endless.
Oh,
You'll
for
you'll be
sure.
amazed if you see
And,
that.
and the radio stations would sponsor these, right? Like they would
Yes, some of
be,
them.
they'd
And
certain,
later on, when they started getting more successful, the word was getting out. Yes, the radio stations from Los Angeles started coming in to
yeah.
promote on there. Wink Martindale was one of them who came down.
Mm.
Bob Eubanks, another
Oh,
one.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Famous. Yeah. Went to
yeah,
television afterwards, right? After
yeah,
radio.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and Pomona had a station, KPMO. Yeah, KPMO, Keep Pomona Moving Onward. That's what the
Very
lyrics
good.
meant.
Amazing.
Yeah. And fortunately, the gentleman I mentioned, Candy Mendoza, was a disc jockey on there. And then
Mhm.
I did some research on that. Recently found out that in 1947, Art LeBeau was also on the air on that radio station. So it just all blends into the history of the rock and roll that Richie Valens came from,
Yes.
the Los Angeles-based rhythm and blues, Buddy Holly, how could Richie end up with Buddy Holly and the Big Bopper? That's like, wow. How,
Yeah.
that's
The
just
story of that tour. Yeah. The story of that tour is really fascinating. It seemed like, I mean, Richie was on his way up and everyone else, Buddy, when you think about it, was on kind of the way down
yeah,
in some
yeah,
ways. And
yeah.
he didn't want to be there. He had to be there. He was in the middle of that rights battle with his producer, Norman
Hmm.
Petty, and he'd moved to New York, and his sound was changing. He was getting a bit more colorful, if you will, as far as instrumentals and being more popular than rock.
Hmm.
Um, and so this was a moneymaker, frankly. This was sort of an in between to get him through to his next record, this tour. And the Big Bopper, another Texan, both of them are Texans. The Big Bopper was trying to save money to buy a radio station for himself. He was a DJ
Yeah,
at
yeah,
heart, right? This
right.
performing thing was kind of just a side gig to get him his radio station,
Yeah,
and then of course you have Dion the Belmonts from New York, right? So you
yeah.
think of like the cross pollination of Southern California, Texas, New York, unbelievable. Like to have all these guys, and as sad as the story of the Winter Dance Party is, the time that all of those guys spent together, you just want to be a fly on the wall, right? You'd want to
Exactly.
be with them on the buses when they're trading guitar licks and playing songs, and or even during the shows and afterwards. Just wouldn't that have been a great time to
After
be
the
with those
shows,
kinds of things?
I'd really
Or
like to
after
be
the
a fly
shows
on the
too.
wall,
That
man,
too. Yeah, yeah,
because that's where
for
you
sure.
really get, all your emotions going because
Yeah,
you're finally off stage,
yeah,
you're relaxing, there's a
yeah.
famous scene of James Brown after his concert in Africa. After they followed him and he went to his desk and just went like this and just you could just see everything coming
So
out of him,
exhausted. Yeah.
And I'm sure Richie did the same thing, This was all new to him, like you said.
Hmm.
And I'm sure he was a bundle of nerves before going on, and
Yeah.
then boom, you're there and it's all done in maybe 30, 20 minutes, maybe five
Yeah, you're
songs.
getting two to three songs. Buddy
Yeah,
got five, and everyone else got two or three, right?
yeah,
Like it's
yeah.
it's
So you had
quick,
to
it's over.
pop it.
Yeah,
You had
yeah,
to pop it right there. And
for
so
sure.
all of that energy, and then you're just drained afterwards,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
that's what I would have liked to have seen,
Oh, totally. Yeah,
that toning down energy that he was going through, and then getting ready to go to the bus and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So, I
And
mean,
just so much time on the road. Like those, the zigzagging of that tour is, it makes no sense. I don't know who figured it
yeah,
out, but you're backtracking and you're going, on what was basically dilapidated school buses. Like they weren't coaches even,
yeah, yeah, no, yeah, they were just school
very basic.
buses.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and
that would have been very, very taxing on, yeah, on your nerves, and you're exhausted, and you're going from being sweaty inside to being freezing outside. Like
right,
it's
right,
it's,
right.
it's no surprise that Richie and the Big Bopper and probably others got really sick, right? They're getting
Yeah,
beaten up,
yeah,
getting
you're right.
colds, and so it would have been a trial by fire for a young musician, to be on the road
You know,
like
you're
that.
right. Because
Yeah,
Southern California and Texas being, just naturally warmer, and then all
yeah,
of a sudden you're in the thick of snow and all. That must have been an adventure, but also a very challenging one. And then for Richie to be by himself,
yeah, yep.
that made it even
So true.
doubly challenging
Really
for
tough.
him.
And
And
and I think from the way Keane describes it in his book, and I must say I'm grateful for him for having written it too, along with yours. I mean, it's Richie kind of had a choice to make. Like he almost came home. Like he was
yeah,
that sick, and he was that homesick. And
hmm
Keane told him to come home, and according to Keane, it was like, no, I'll stay. The kids want to see me. They've paid to see me.
hmm
I don't want to let them down. I'll stick it out.
yeah,
And
yeah,
if that's not a testament to his character, and the kind of
absolutely.
person he was, I don't know what is, because he's like, it would have been easy to say, yeah, I'm sick, I'm done, I'm coming home.
Yeah, I'm coming home.
Uh,
Yeah,
but
but
nope, he didn't. He stayed.
uh,
Yeah.
wow. I have Richie Valens 45s, like La Bamba. I have the original 45 with
Wow.
the turquoise color and the
Yep.
like old English writing on the label,
The
Delphi,
Delphi label. Yeah.
the Delphi label.
Yeah.
And that's the way it was originally released. And then they reissued it again. I think I might have been on the same format, but a different tone in the label. But
hmm
the original label is like a turquoise green.
I remember. Yep. I've
Yeah.
seen it.
And
Yeah.
then I have the other Delphi records, Come On, Let's Go and Framed, all the 45s. LP wise, I have the original first album,
Right.
the
Rich
original
Valens. Yeah.
label, and
Yeah.
I have the second album on the original label, and um, I have some EPs. I have an EP of Richie, the post after he passed away. That EP they put out, "We Belong Together" is on there,
The
and there,
memorial, it was the Richard Valens Memorial Series. I think they were
yeah,
called that. Is that?
yeah,
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
the EP for that.
Right.
And there you go. Let's go back to the song. We're song selections that he came up with.
Yeah.
We
Yeah. Yeah.
belong together.
Well, I thought about that in your book, right? Because
Yeah.
you talked about Frank and Johnny. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And We Belong Together by Robert and Johnny from the East Coast, but radio in LA was playing it. And
hmm
that's what did it. I always wondered what did Richie get out of that song? Something attracted that to him.
And
And
does he make it his own? Right. I mean, it's a
yeah,
great song on its
he
own.
yeah.
Like the original is one of my favorite songs actually, but his is, he just puts a stamp on it, and
Mhm.
it becomes a different song, but just as good a ballad as you could ever want.
Exactly.
And a lot of his family members I know feel that that's the song that makes them remember him, and he didn't write it, right? So
Right.
that's a credit. I feel that's a credit to him as a singer, because you think
Exactly.
of the great vocalists, whether it's Sinatra or you name it,
Mhm.
Dean Martin or Rod,
Yeah.
whoever, like you think of people who don't write their own stuff and
Right.
interpret it. I mean, he was an interpreter of other people's songs too. We
He
talked about
sure
the
was.
covers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right.
Bluebirds
And
Over the Mountain, for example. Another
exactly.
one.
Yeah.
So yeah. So for me, I guess when I'm thinking about the things I'd like to have, I don't have any of the singles, and that would be cool to have
Oh,
one
okay.
of the singles. I have LPs, and as a Gen X person, I have Richie on cassette. My first, I mean, I saw the movie first, and so the first thing I got was the soundtrack from La Bamba,
Right,
and
right.
so that was the starting point. That was still open the door to me being I was 9, and from then on, Richie's been with me. So uh, I'll be forever grateful for to Los Lobos for the great job they did, in
Oh
covering Richie
yeah.
for the movie.
Yeah.
But then it's that exploration, and I'll never forget it. I was probably a year later, um, and this is a very Canadian reference, but I'll make it anyway. We had what was called Sam the Record Man, and that was the record store. That was kind of like our Tower Records, or you know what I mean,
Oh,
like
okay.
your
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And it was a Canadian company, and uh, I found a cassette, like so really small, of Richie Valens' greatest hits
Oh, okay. Yeah.
on cassette. And of course, this is the first time I've actually seen his face. It's
Hmm.
that famous,
Right, right.
portrait of him with the guitar, and it's on many of the reissues. That's from that, one of the main photo sessions that he did, the promotional photo sessions. And but to see him in the flesh compared to Lou Diamond Phillips was, as a 10-year-old, was like, wait a
Yeah.
second, he doesn't look like that. That's
Right.
what's going
Right.
on here. And so that was, and then to hear those recordings on cassette in my father's car, and it's like,
Yeah.
that doesn't sound like Los Lobos at all, right? It's
Right.
very different.
Right.
It's like being put into a time machine. So that was really a transformational moment for me to actually hear the original songs. After
Yeah, they
getting the
did.
80s produced Los Lobos
Right.
to the 1958 Richie Valens was an incredible, and I just wanted to learn more from then on. I just wanted to learn more and more about,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah, Los Lobos did such a magnificent job with his songs, and
Yeah,
they
oh
were true to
totally.
form. They didn't,
Yep,
do anything else to it. They made it true to form, and I think that's what everybody enjoyed. The general public.
absolutely.
You mentioned Tower Records. I used to work for Tower Records
Okay.
in their heyday between 1980 and
Hmm.
2001. So I was with them for 21 years. And so when La Bamba came out, I was working at Tower Records in Panorama City, which is just like maybe the most 5 miles away from Pacoima. So
Perfect.
we were the closest store then to that city, Pacoima,
Hmm.
and one of my security guards was related to Richie Valens.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, his
Awesome.
name was, I can't remember his first, Eric, I think. No, I can't remember his first name, but his last name was Reyes.
Okay, so he was
Yeah.
on
So
Richie's aunt. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So
On his
he
mom's
used
side.
we La Bamba had come out. I was already in Panorama City there, and it came out, and he saw it. And I guess the family saw it, and he came back and says, "Yeah, Richie never went to go pick fruit. He never
No,
did. No,
I
he
know.
never did that." And I
Yeah,
go, "Oh well, it's a movie. Come on, And they said, "Well, he didn't do that." And I thought that was kind of interesting, that the family, there was like that conversation going on after they watched the movie, and
yeah, absolutely. No,
and
I mean, there was. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say there's a reference to, we mentioned Cannibal and the Headhunters earlier.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, they went to go pick fruit
Oh,
when
interesting.
the record broke, Land of a Thousand Dances for them.
Hmm.
And the two brothers and Richard, they were all going to Northern California to pick fruit during the summer. And they got a frantic call when they arrived over there from Frankie Cannibal saying, "You got to come back. You got to come back. We're going to New York. You got to come back." What?
Can
And then
you
so
imagine
they
getting
had
that
to,
call? Wow,
yeah, they had to pass the hat with friends and family to get the funds to take the bus
to get
back.
there. Wow,
So they made it back on time. But again, it's kind of similar, the
isn't it?
thing of
So
Richie.
similar. Yeah,
Yeah, you know,
that fine line between, and then not like the tragedy of going from, as I said, paycheck to paycheck to literally stardom,
right,
and then for his family to lose him, and it's all gone. Like it's just all gone in a heartbeat.
right.
It's so fickle. Like you think of life as fickle in itself, but you know, from fame to where you were before fame is extremely fickle,
Yeah.
and just devastating when you think about it. And
I'm sure it was,
yeah,
uh, I don't even know what kind of expression or feelings they had. You know what I mean? When they got the
yeah,
news, and Bob King's
awful. I mean,
feelings, they
yeah,
were just probably just in shock and couldn't believe it, probably, just could not
yeah.
believe it.
No, I think in talking to Connie, Richie's oldest sister, about it, I mean, it was shock. She didn't want to believe it. She refused to believe it. She said
Right.
for years, really, that he was just not home. He just hadn't come home yet. And she was 9, right? She was 9 when he died.
Hmm.
And so, and I think there was a lot of silence after that. Like, we people didn't grieve as openly, perhaps, as they do now.
Right.
And
Right.
they wouldn't even listen to his music. Like, it was just this silence, and it really kind of sort of tore the family apart in many ways. They went in different directions. They moved out of Pacoima, um, and they said really it wasn't until Richie became, like, sort of in the early '80s, he kind of re-entered the zeitgeist a little bit. The records
Right.
kind of got a
Right.
bit more
Kind of
respect.
re-enter the rock scene.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then of course the movie, and so they were all involved in the movie, and it gave them almost permission to talk about Richie again and to remember him.
Right.
And I think, according to Connie and Irma, both his sisters, it was cathartic. Just like it's just to see how many people respected what he meant to them, or conveyed what he'd meant to them, and then the success of the movie, and frankly the success of the soundtrack. Like, they changed the family's. It went to number one. Like, it
Oh
was an
yeah. Yeah.
international
Mhm.
hit, which changes your financial outlook too. Like, let's be frank
Exactly.
about this. Like, it
Right.
really changes everything. So it's funny, you think of from 1958, and the movie came out in 1987. That's a long time.
It
Uh,
is. Hmm.
and so for the family to kind of go through that roller coaster of grief and isolation, and then to kind of, almost the joy that the movie brought to them, kind of reimagining him, and bringing him back in some ways, not in the most important way certainly, but in some ways,
Yeah.
I'm just so grateful that for that family that happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they deserved it. He
Yeah.
worked so hard
Oh, yeah,
to keep his
such a.
mother, going and
Hmm.
wanting to take care of her and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
you know, when I spoke with Chan Romero one time about this, Bob Keane brought him in. And of course,
Yeah.
Bob Keane was already thinking a business, well, this could be another Richie. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And they went to Richie's house, he
Hmm.
told me, and they went into the bedroom, and it was exactly the same way that when
Yeah,
he
she left it.
died, and
Yep.
the guitar was there, or a guitar was there. I don't, the one he used that he left there.
Yeah.
And Chan told me that he said it was kind of surreal, that the families like kind of looked at him, and it seemed like they were accepting him as Richie, like you
Yeah.
came
I
back.
heard that too.
Yeah,
Yep.
you came home, and he said he felt really they wanted him to stay there in the
Yeah.
bedroom, and he didn't. I don't think he did, and he just said it just felt too crazy to do that.
No,
And
that's really unfortunate for him in many ways, right? Because it's almost like there was another. I know the story you're talking about, and there's a really interesting photo of him and Donna of the song,
Mhm.
Donna Ludwig at the time, sort of in Richie's room, pointing at a picture of him, the two of them.
Yeah.
So it was almost, and I think there's a quote even of Richie's mother talking about how it's almost like my boys come back.
Hmm.
And so it was very much a coping mechanism to have him around.
Right. Yeah,
But
you're
that would have
right.
been very, very difficult for him, as in many respects,
Yeah, he just felt uncomfortable, like at one point, but they're like
yeah, it's like,
thinking I'm him.
yeah,
And
no, that's
yeah,
it would be
that
tough.
that was pretty crazy.
And
Yeah.
and sorry, back to the recordings, like, you think of that Dan Electro bass guitar that was so prominent in Richie's recordings. Well, doesn't Keane use that for the Hippie Shake, right? Like, it's the
Yeah.
Hippie Shake for him. Like,
Right, right.
it's almost as though he used the exact same. I can't remember if it's the exact same lineup, but close. And
Right.
the sound is very similar to Richie's.
Yeah,
So
because he thought, he also
this
felt that this is my
this is the
nephew.
sound. The sound's going to
Yeah.
sell, as you said
Right,
earlier.
right,
Yeah. So
right. It was a great song, Hippie
it is a
Ritchie.
great song. Yeah.
What a
Yep.
great song that is,
Hmm.
and oh my goodness, it's just all this continuity that was trying to happen there.
Yeah.
That was difficult. I'm sure it was.
No, for sure. And But and you think too of how La Bamba has you think of it being included in the Library of Congress now, right? Like you think of
Yeah.
these accolades and how it's this sort of transnational anthem in many ways. It's really
Yes.
something how it's lived on.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion here in Los Angeles. That's where the LA Philharmonics, that was their old home.
Mm.
Well, they did a lecture. I did a lecture there about the book, and in a glass cabinet they had the actual song "Come On." I think it was "Come On, Let's Go."
Oh wow.
The actual print, and it's stamped.
Okay.
The year it was copyrighted.
Oh,
Yeah,
amazing.
the actual sheet music, but it was in handwritten. It was handwritten. It wasn't like printed with ink. It was handwritten.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. I think
Oh my
it's in
goodness.
Washington now, in DC over
Oh,
there.
that's
But I
incredible.
saw it. Yeah, it's there. And
Wow.
and nowadays, some of his stuff, if you shop on the various, like eBay and stuff like that,
Yeah.
there's a fellow that concentrates only on signatures of movie stars and rock stars and all that.
Hmm.
And he had a Richie Valens signature on an album. And
Is that
and
right?
he said, "Yeah, this is an actual his signature. This is his signature."
Wow.
And I remember that the bidding started at $1,000 for that record. So
Yeah, not
now
surprised.
that just shows the value that Richie has now. It's just going up and going up,
Yeah.
and that's a good thing to see because it shows how important he was in rock and roll.
Hmm.
And of course, the famous touring that he did, it just really exemplified his his input into the rock and roll scene in such a short time. You know,
So true.
yeah.
Um,
I'm
I was
sorry.
fortunate to see. Thinking about sort of artifacts, at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I've seen his one of his shirts is there, which is great. And
Oh
I
yeah.
think the story is his uncle Leo gave him many of his clothes as he was starting to get famous. He needed wardrobe, right? He was
Right, right,
performing, and
right.
so and his uncle Lalo was his nickname, I guess, and he was very much Richie's supplier of wardrobe early on, and which was really cool to see. And at the Surf Ballroom in Clear Lake, Iowa, I've been there a couple times now, and along with seeing the stage and imagining those guys on it, like they've preserved it so wonderfully. It's such a
Oh,
great
good.
venue. But
Good.
attached to it is sort of a museum, right? And so they have
Oh, wow.
all the acts on the wall with signatures, and of course for Richie Valens, the Big Bopper, Buddy Holly, they have a lot of their artifacts,
Oh, wow.
and one of the things there is Richie's wallet.
Oh,
And this beautifully embroidered leather wallet, and it's just looking at it, it's kind of it sort of hits you, right?
yeah.
You
I
think
can
about it in
imagine.
his hands, you think about it with him. And it's a beautiful wallet too. It's really nice. So anyway, it was a kick for me to see that there.
Well,
Well, that's easy for me.
go ahead.
I'm an amateur guitarist. I love his Stratocaster. That was
Oh,
my
there
red
you
one.
go.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, great.
The Sunburst Stratocaster.
What year was that with that Stratocaster?
Well, apparently, I think they gave the performers were given one for the tour because Buddy, Dion, and Richie all had the same one. So I'm guessing it's a 58 model or 59 model. I'm not sure. One of the
Okay.
two. Yeah,
So it's a brand new model then, the latest
yeah,
model, I should say.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Well, for me, it's kind of tough. I mean, I have his records, the vinyl, the actual vinyl.
yeah,
Um, I would have to say his signature, on a publicity photo or an album or something like that.
yeah.
Yeah, I would think that I would like to have that, because in my collection, um, yeah, that would be something I'd want, his actual signature. So,
And I've just had a lovely time today talking Richie and the history of rock and roll and just Southern California nostalgia with David Reyes. And I hope you enjoy La Bamba today.